Today is all about how do I make the most of my time? That's what we're talking about. It In a very real sense, this is a both philosophical and practical conversation. It is something that if you get right and you understand it and you comprehend it well and you're able to apply it, will radically alter the effectiveness of whatever you're doing, life or content or otherwise. This is one of those things that some people really don't like thinking about because they they're not very good at it, or because it feels pressure, or because it's something to do with their past or whatever. They're just like, man, I don't want the pressure of having to deal with altering my priorities. Some people have a struggle with this because they have to say no to some things. I'm not very good at saying no to things. And so therefore, this is once we can, if we can get through this and we can actually get to the place where we are, um, I guess, at least in agreement to it, then I believe your content creation can be a lot better. I believe that mistaken priorities lie at the heart of ineffective content creation. There are a lot of this is really easy to do as a content creator because there's so many things that are happening, regardless of which kind of content creator you are. You're a musician or a writer or a poet or an artist or a streamer or whatever. It doesn't matter. But because if you don't have your priorities straight and you don't know what your main goal is or your top two goal is, if you work on all the other goals and miss the first two, you can just be spinning your wheels. In fact, I think it's a little harder for a lot of the more digital oriented creation people or ministry people because there is a million things that we have to figure out, right? And we love, if I don't know if you're a techie, you love messing with this stuff. Like, it's great to have your overlays look cool and all the tech look cool and have your camera and your background and have all the trappings just be really really neat. And it's easy to get kind of into that headset or that mindset that if I can get the trappings right, get the look right, then it will help my ministry take off, or it'll change my audience, or it'll do whatever I want it to do. It ends up being you can burn a lot of energy on the on less than necessary things. Not unnecessary, but less than necessary. I've used this example many times before. As a Christian content creator, like, if you consider two streams. Stream number one, you've got 1,000 people, in your stream. You've got $10,000 worth of subs, and you've got, just such a everybody was really entertained and everybody was really happy about it, and you just got some good thumbs up. Versus a stream where you had 10 people in the stream and there wasn't any subs, but you had a meaningful, deep conversation with somebody who was sharing their heart. You were able to share the gospel. You were able to share your story, and it knit together. And then those people were moved, like 5 of them moved into your community to become offline members of your Discord that you can connect to. As a Christian content creator, which would you prefer? I think that each of us would go, well, yeah, I want the meaningful stream. What's the point of having a stream with 10,000 people in it if nothing ever happens? Everybody just kind of goes thumbs up and then and disappears into the ether. Whereas being able to have those meaningful conversations and push them this way is to and push them. I'm pointing at my Discord. It's so funny. Push them towards Discord. Then you'll be able to you accomplished your mission. Now, the question of priorities is, which one are you pointing your time and energy at, right? Because a lot of people they say, Christian content creators, they say they want the community side of things. They want to connect with people. That's what they want. And then they spend all their time trying to figure out how they can get popular, how they can grow bigger, how they can become more professional. So how they can dump more time into it, get a sponsor and all the rest of that stuff. In their mind, they think, if I can do all those things, I will serve more people. I'll be more, more effective in my ministry because I will have grown in popularity. Whereas if you have your priorities straight and you know what your number one and number two priorities are, you can actually say, it's okay that I don't look as professional as I could. It's okay that I'm not, as technologically savvy, or it's okay that I don't have all of these other things in line, and my stream looks like the same as it did last year, because the two most important things that I wanted to do with this ministry, with this streaming, with this career, with my content creation, is actually happening, right? That's what we're going to talk about. If you get it wrong, you can waste a lot of time, and you end up not being able to do what you feel that God wanted you to do, but you'll be, kind of lost in the weeds because you'll think you're doing it, and it'll be a lot harder. The verse Ephesians 5:15 says, "Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." The days are evil. This is sort of a theme that you're going to see along the way. Same with Psalm 90. Teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. It's asking God to remind us that we're mortal. Remind us that we have limited time, that we have limited energy, that we don't really know when, we're going to either stop living or be too weak to follow through, or something's going to change and we're not going to be able to continue to strive at the level that we're able that we want to. So Lord, show us how to live carefully, how to live wisely, and to live purposefully with what you've given us, because time is a limited resource. Energy is a limited resource. The everything you're doing has a limitation to it, right? Everything you have is an expiry date. At some point, your computer is going to melt. At some point, it's not going to run anything. At some point, your body is going to get older. You get sicker. You're going to have more things wrong. It's just, that's the way the world is. And so the prayer is to say, okay, God, I believe that you brought me into this for a reason. I believe that this passion is in my heart for a reason. I believe this content creation is important, and that I want to use it for your glory and for the good of your people and for reaching other people. So help me to see and not get distracted by all the things, so I don't waste my time. That's what that prayer is all about. We're gonna start with a bit of a priority check. So what I want you to do, and I noticed that there's some people who aren't using their cam. I was going to say, give me the thumbs up or the thumbs down, but if you want to give thumbs up or thumbs down in the chat, you can do that. Or if you're just listening, because I saw, someone has been having a lot of headaches lately, so that, feel free to chill out if you want to. But we're gonna go through. I'm gonna talk about your priorities and whether or not how well you use your time, and you guys just kind of give me the thumbs up and thumbs down for these questions. Keep track of it if you want to, because at the end we're gonna see how well you did. So number one. Do you plan tomorrow's work today? Right. This is how efficient are you in your use of time? Because knowing it's a limited resource, knowing it's something that we need to capture well, knowing that there are many distractions in our life, in order to utilize it well, to have that heart of wisdom, to be able to capture the time, we need to have our priorities straight when it comes to how we use it. So number one, do you plan tomorrow's work today? As in, do you know what you're doing tomorrow? Do you understand where you're going to start? Do you have a plan for what time you're going to get there, and what project you're going to start on, and how long it'll generally take? Do you plan your work today? Thumbs up or thumbs down? I taught the class last night too. I got a lot of that last night too. Like, kind of, sort of, when I feel like it, but also, yes, I'm doing pretty good, but not when I'm not doing very good. Right? Like, it's just sort of yes and no. Number two, do you perform routine chores at your daily low energy time and creative tasks at your high peak? The question is, do you understand your energy well? Do you understand how you live? Like, for example, are you a night owl? Are you a morning person? Or do you peak at 3:00 in the afternoon? Like, do you use your energy well? So, for example, there are a lot of things out there that you don't want to do. They're just grind things that are a bummer, whether it be, and everybody's got a different one, right? Some people, it's like their budget. They don't want to do that. For some people, it's like grocery shopping. They don't want to do that. For other people, there's they don't want to spend time in emails or have to connect with people through text, or they don't want to check their Discord because it's just, they know it's going to take a long time, or follow up with a conversation they had before, all that kind of stuff, right? And so they're like, okay, I'm gonna use my morning energy to get that done. And then when it's time when that's kind of done, they feel tired, they're feeling logy. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon, and now it's time for them to try to be creative, to edit their videos, to come up with content ideas, to prepare themselves for stream, or to prepare themselves for whatever the art they're going to be putting together, and they're just wiped. And so what they end up giving half their attention that they should to the actual content, because they gave all their energy to the grindy, boring stuff or the stuff they didn't really want to do. Alternatively, if you can take your time and go, okay, I don't want to do this stuff, so I'm going to do that in the afternoon. It's stuff I have to do, so it'll pull me towards it anyway, because if I don't do it, I'm in trouble. But I'm going to utilize my energy time, peak morning, peak evening, or whatever it is. That's when I'm going to be pushing out my creativity stuff. That's when I'm going to be pushing out the big ideas, because then I'll be able to do it so much better. So do you perform routine chores during low energy and creative stuff during your high peak? You understand your energy levels. Yeah. Good. It's critical. It's really important. I think one of the things that people who would struggle with mental health issues or struggle with you know, depression or whatever, we realize that it is a very finite resource, and so therefore we better get it right, because when we're good, we better be good. And if we waste that time, we don't know how long it'll take to slide back up. I don't know if you struggle with that, but I know for me that I know that if I've got some energy, I'd better do the stuff that I want to get done, because if I slide into a down place, then I know that it could be a little while before I'm able to pull back into doing fun, creative things. I'll just be in maintenance mode. Number 3, do you get unpleasant duties out of the way as soon as possible? In time management, they call that slay your dragons in the morning. Essentially, do you have things in your life that are, or in your work or whatever, that you don't want to do? Do you just get them out of the way, or you do all the stuff you kind of want to do and all the stuff that you think is going to be interesting and keep pushing that stuff aside or waiting for it, and it just sits there, whether it be, the pile of papers that's over here that you're supposed to file, whether it be your room getting funky, whether it be, having to go for a walk, or whatever the thing is that you have to do, but you really don't want to, because you've got other things that are more fun, more interesting, that they feel more productive. Do you get that hard stuff out of the way so that you can concentrate on the more important stuff, or do you keep pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off? Which one are you? Do you get unpleasant duties out of the way? It's a hand comes up, just like thing comes up and then leaves. All right. I don't know what that meant, but all right. And it's hard to do, because we're all very much oriented toward doing things we want to do. But if you want to capture your time and do well, you bump that yucky stuff out of the way, and then you've got freedom. Otherwise you stand there. I don't know if you've felt this, but you feel guilty. You look at the pile, or you look at the thing, and you're like, man, I really got to deal with that. And it actually kind of pulls you down. Like you're not creating as well, and you're not as friendly as you could be, and you're not as energetic as you could be, because that thing over there, it feels like an anchor, right? And you feel just guilty and bad because it's there. And so, man, I better deal with that. You deal with it, and suddenly it removes the anchor. Do you mentally preview the day's work at the beginning of the day? This is another one. The philosophy of taking time to think, taking time to process, taking time to plan is actually work and really important. Some people really don't think that. They sit down and they just start working, blah, 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 whatever's in front of them. It's like, okay, there's the email went ding, I'll do the email. This phone call rang, I'll answer the phone. Whatever it is, whatever's in front of me, that's what I'm going to do. Instead of going, okay, so what are my high level priorities today? What are the things I absolutely have to accomplish? What are the things that I can push off till tomorrow? What do I have to cram in because it has to be done? But I need to get this other stuff. Do you sit there for at least a little bit and kind of plan out what you're going to be doing today? Or do you just launch? Plan out good? Plan out good? All right. It's really important. A lot of people struggle with it, because they think that thinking is a waste of time. They think that spending time processing and planning isn't creating anything, right? It's something that there's no widget formed. You haven't pushed anything forward. You haven't sent an email or created a relationship or done anything of value. All you've done is sat there and think, right? But the truth is, if you take some time to go, okay, where am I? What am I doing? What are my priorities? What's important today? And then you launch after that, you'll get a way more done. Are you able to deal with people who waste your time? Number 5. Do you have boundaries? Or do you find yourself consistently pulled away by people and doing other people's jobs and other people's tasks and you've never had a conversation with the people in your life or whatever about saying, you know what, I'm not gonna, I need these hours. You can't take these hours. I'm sorry, I'm not available. Turning off your phone because you don't want to turn off your phone because you might miss a conversation from so and so. Do you have the boundary to say, I'm locking down this time and I'm not letting anybody waste it? Or are you always pulled away from the tasks you want to do by other people's plans? It's tough. Part of it, we're personable people who want to be nice and kind to each other. But the truth is that if we don't set up the boundaries, we're never going to get anything done. That whole nature abhors a vacuum thing. It's the world is set against you. The balance in this world is off. If you don't put the wall up, you have an enemy, a spiritual enemy, but you also have this kind of world. Other people are just going to kind of grab and pull, and they'll take whatever they can get. Not in a mean way. They're not, not trying to be mean about it, but they know that you know what you're doing, or they know that you're part of it, or they know that you have an interest or whatever. And so they're just going to kind of grab you and pull you. And if you don't have that no line, be able to say it's not going to happen. Like I've had a home office now for like, I don't know, almost 15 years. And it took a long time and a lot of conversations for the first 5, 6, 7 years to kind of go, okay, listen, this is my time and this is work and it is important. And unless the house is on fire or, Jesus is back or someone's giving away free bacon on the front on the front lawn, like don't come into my house or into my office because I need to get this stuff done. And it took a while, took a bit of a transition, took a long time to get kind of used to it. And it was the opposite for me. I would be done. I would be ready for a break. I'd go, la, da, da, and I'd go upstairs and they'd be in the middle of a homeschool lesson. And I would just kind of come traipsing in and I'm like, I'm on a break. And all the kids would just kind of lose their marbles and stop doing school, because I came in and disrupted them. We had to figure out the boundaries. Otherwise, we were never going to get anything done. Number 6, do you know how to log your time? That is, occasionally write down just how long it takes to accomplish each day's tasks. Logging time is something a lot of people struggle with. Have you ever done the exercise where you take a week or even a day and you do 15-minute increments of what you've been doing with yourself, right? What do I do for this hour? What do I do for this hour? What do I do for this hour? The truth is, this allows you to actually see what your priorities actually are. Because you'll end up, nobody would ever say, my highest level priority is looking at my phone. Nobody would say that, right? And yet, if you do a 15-minute increment throughout the day, you'll go like, well, I spent 2 hours on content creation. I spent 2 hours with my family. I spent, a couple hours preparing my life and, 15 minutes with God. And then 5 on my phone. Turns out my number one priority in life is memes. That's just number one in my life. Nobody would ever say it out loud, but when you start tracking, when you start looking through what this is, you're going, what you've been doing with your time, your priorities are immediately apparent, right? Number 7, do you, when you promise that you'll get something done on time, do you always try to keep your word? Right? Or the alternative, like whether you try to, is very different than you are able to keep your word. There are people out there who will either say no to everything because they just don't trust themselves. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going to be, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, man. Maybe if I'm available, possibly I'll let you know in the day. And there are other people who will say yes to everything because they want to be helpful and they want to be good, but they drop the ball constantly because they don't have any manageability in their time. They're committing themselves. They're overcommitting themselves, and they end up because they just don't know. They don't track. They don't care. They don't know, and they keep letting people down. Their heart is about serving people, wanting to do that, but they end up not because they end up shooting themselves in the foot because they don't track their time or know what their time is. So for you, do you keep your word? Are you able to keep your word if you say you're going to get something done? Yep. All right. Number 8, do you set aside a portion of each day to think, create, and plan? This is another one of those discussions about whether or not you believe it's important to actually meditate, about think through stuff, about kind of brainstorming with yourself, or just kind of letting what's happened in your life sink in. Have you ever had the experience where you go into your shower and all of a sudden you're like the most creative person of all time, right? You're just like got all the ideas that are coming flowing. Wow, I'm so smart. I wish I had a pen and paper. Chances are what that is you haven't taken purposeful time to think or meditate or create. And so that's the only time you've been quiet. That's the only time you've given yourself to allow all those thoughts that have been up here to actually start to express themselves, because you've been pushing it back to get some things done, right? If you take purposeful time and say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna sit here and just kind of, I want to think through some stuff that I want my stream or content creation or whatever to look like, where I want it to go, how I think it's doing, what is my optimal sort of audience, how am I feeling physically, how am I, could I be doing a better with this or better with that, if you think through that creative time suddenly produces better content. You're happier, everybody's excited because they're seeing different stuff. Otherwise, you're just going to keep repeating, right? Because you're not thinking of new stuff, you're not creating new stuff, you're not processing new stuff. And then you hit the shower and your brain goes, look at all the great ideas I have. And you're like, and you forget them as soon as you get out because you got to go do more stuff, right? Do you take time to think, create, and plan each day? Maybe once a week. No? All right. Number 9, is your workplace tidy? Can you find what you need without wasting time? Is your work, because that's one, like, for example, if I said, go get could you go get it? Right? If you, on your desktop, do you know where things are? Do you know how it works? Are you always like farting around looking for that icon? Are you always looking for your water bottle? Time to stream or whatever, time to get on there, time to do content creation, time to go for your walk, and like, where is my water bottle? For crying out loud, I have it with me all the time. Do you know where stuff is? Yes? It's interesting because during our main flurry times, our environment can start to fall apart. And we're going to talk about the Pareto principle a little bit more. And I'm not saying that you have to be perfect and everything needs to be pristine. The question is, 8 out of 10 things, or 80% of the time, or is it 80% clean? You know what I mean? Good enough, right? If you shoot for perfection, 100% clean, you're actually going to end up wasting time. Because you spend too much time like, this is where the pencils go, and I need to make sure the library is in alphabetical order, and whatever. But you don't, right? Because you can just scan and know where your book is. So if you do to perfectionism, you'll waste time. But there's like this border where it's like, okay, now I've gone too far and I'm wasting time because I can't find things. Do you have an efficient filing or organization system? Or do you have the pile? Or if you're even better, the piles, at least they're in piles. Or do you have an efficient filing and organization system? Because this one I've learned, this is old man talk now. Back in the day, when I first started, I didn't prioritize. I didn't really care about things like Robert's Rules of Order or the Constitution or the bylaws or keeping track of the paperwork or why we need to spend so much time writing down the budget and have all these numbers and receipts and why are we doing this? Let's go out and find people for Jesus. I've learned over that time how critical it is to have that paperwork ready, to have that background, to keep those notes, to have those minutes, to be able to have that stuff filed away, to know where the receipts are, all that stuff, because not having it will bite you in the butt. You'll waste money, you'll waste time, you'll waste energy, you'll forget things, you'll let people down, or for that matter, you'll get taken advantage of, right? Somebody will try to say something that is not true, and you could prove it, but you don't know where that paper is, or you don't know where that is, right? So having a file organization system will really protect you. Number 11, do you know how to choose your most productive tasks? Do you know what your gifts, talents, and abilities are so that when you apply them, you can get things done better and more quickly? It's about knowing yourself, to know what you can do quick. I'll tell you, for me, I really like messing with graphics. It's like Canva's like my favorite thing in the whole world. it's just fun because I feel creative and I feel smart and it looks really cool and it's bright colors and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really bad at it. It takes me hours to like make a thumbnail because I'm tweaking and pushing and wondering and googling and doing all kinds of stuff to make it happen. And it is something I can waste so much time on because it is absolutely not a productive task for me. It's not something I can do well. And so I will be like, okay, I'm going to edit a video and I'm going to put out a short and I'm going to make sure I plan my streams and make sure whatever. And then and then immediately it'll be, oh man, yeah, no, I need a thumbnail for that, you know? And I'll be like gravimetrically pulled into making the thumbnail because I think that's fun and it'll just waste the day, right? If I'd have gone, no, I can do the other things way quicker and then try to fit the thumbnail in at the end. It is really critical to know what you're good at so that you can prioritize and so you can decide, okay, I can do that in a hurry. Therefore, that can wait, right? But this thing here, it's going to take me a while. So I'm going to have to allocate a lot more time to this. Or for that matter, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm going to have to go learn how to do that, right? Number 12. Do you know exactly what your top priorities are? This is where we're going. This is the big one. And chances are if last night is any indication, it's really funny because when I started talking about priorities, people came up with a list of a bunch, but none of them were the top 1, 2, or 3, right? It's just they didn't process, they didn't think that way. So, do you know what your top priorities are? Let's talk about that before we answer anything. So, before I jump into it, do you have any questions or comments or anything that you want to say about this or anything else that we've been talking about? Let's talk about how a Christian processes priorities. So we will what you're going to see here is that when you have priorities and you have your priorities straight, you're going to make people upset. That's what we're going to go through. That's how it works. So let's talk about what was Jesus' priority. Number 1, it says, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone's looking for you." Jesus replied, "Let's go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That's why I have come." Jesus, in this scenario, he's very popular. Things are going really, really well. The numbers going up. He's helping people. And there's lists, piles of people that still need help, right? People demon-possessed, people that have illnesses, people that need food, people that have never heard the gospel before. And they all reside in this town that he was just in yesterday. So he takes off. His number 1 priority is, I need to meet with the Father, right? It is critical for me to make sure that I'm connected with the Father, that that is the most important thing in the world. But second is his mission, right? He says, no, I'm not here for just that village. I'm not here for just that place. I need to spread the gospel. I need to tell people the kingdom has come. I'm going to do that, and I'm supposed to do it throughout Israel to a lot of different people to announce it, right? If I get stuck in this one spot, there's going to be a lot of people who have never heard of it. But he left behind a town full of people that really wanted him to be there. That's hard to do, right? But since he knew what his top 1 or 2 priorities were, right? Connect with the Father and preach the gospel, or preach the kingdom has come, repent and be ready for it. Then he was able to say, I will disappoint these people. I will move on. I will leave other people not well because I have something more important. You'd think Jesus, right? Well, what's his priority? Oh, sick people and people who need help and people who are oppressed and people who are lost. And, like you think, that obviously he's not going to just walk away. He's Jesus. And the truth is, during his lifetime, he walked away a lot of times from things that we would have said are really, really important. Instead, he goes, no, that's not what I'm here for. I'm going to do this. For us in our content creation, we're going to have the same issue. There are a million good things we can be doing out there. The question is, which great thing are you supposed to be doing? Right? There'll be a lot of things. Like one of the traps that the enemy can set is that it can fill you full of good options that distract you from the thing you're actually supposed to be doing. Right? It's like this person needs help, and this person needs you to teach them something, and this person needs you to drive them somewhere, and this person needs you to make them soup or whatever. And you're like, well, I'm a Christian. Of course I need to do all those things because that's a good thing to do. Where in truth, those good things prevent you from doing the most important thing. You stop meeting with God, you stop doing your devos because you're so busy and tired and there's so many things happening. And then you pull away from your actual ministry, the actual thing that you're supposed to be doing with your time, right? It's a trap, and it's really easy to fall into. What's a Christian's priority? It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. This is another example when it comes to what we're supposed to be doing as Christians, right? You look at the situation. Jesus is in town. Jesus is in Mary and Martha's house. What's the priority? For Martha, it's like, man, I need to be a good host. We need to get some food out here. I'm going to have to make sure that it's comfortable. Jesus is important to me. And to show how important it is, I'm going to make sure that I give him the food or whatever. Or this is really, it's part of my culture. It's really important that we do this. We can't just have someone over and not feed them or whatever. It ends up, it's all, again, good things, maybe good intentions. But when she went to Jesus and said, listen, I'm in here doing all this important stuff, and Martha's not doing jack squat. She's not doing anything important right now. Tell her to come help me. That way we can get this going. Jesus is like, no, you don't need to be doing that. You're doing the wrong thing, Martha. You have all this idea and all this energy and all this upsettedness and all this plan for how you're going to make the day better and do everything, but you are in the wrong spot. Right? And I can't think of what she would think, obviously, I don't, because it doesn't say in scripture, but I would imagine that would have taken her aback a little bit, being told you're in the wrong spot. All the things you're doing that are nice, all the things you're doing that are important, all the work that you're doing is actually not what I want you to do. Jesus is a miracle worker. If he wanted a sandwich, he can just manifest one out of nothing. If he really wanted a sandwich, you don't need to do that for him. The limited thing you have is the presence of Jesus sitting in your living room. You should be there. That's where you should be. For content creators, we can get very caught up in doing the content creation, doing the ministry, doing the drawing people in, using our gifts and talents to be able to serve as many people as possible, to the exclusion of our relationship with Jesus, right? We jump on stream, we're a little bit late, the devos go aside. We need to do some, we need to get down there and buckle down. We got meetings, so therefore we kind of push aside the spiritual disciplines. We got too much to do, so we skip church, we skip the small group, we kind of cut other things out of our life. The accountability partners go aside, and the listening to messages, reading the books, and all that stuff. Everything kind of goes away in the name of serving Jesus. All the stuff that Jesus has been setting you up with and that connect you to him, that keep you accountable to him, you remove in his name. You spend less time with Jesus so that you can spend more time working for Jesus. And in a very real sense, Jesus goes, you're doing it wrong. If I wanted everybody on the planet to come to your stream, I could make that happen. I really could. If I wanted whatever your art's going to be, or whatever your song's going to be out there, I could just make it happen. That's not what we're here for. You're here for is to connect with me first, right? It is a big trap for us to be pulled into a very important content creation, very exciting content creation, and miss or forget or walk away from our relationship with Jesus. It's easy to do, and we can fool ourselves into thinking it's the right thing to do because we're doing it in his name. What's the priority for church leaders? So the 12 gathered all the disciples together and said, "It would not be right for us to neglect the ministry of the word of God in order to wait on tables. Brothers, choose 7 men from among you who are given to be full of the Spirit and wisdom. We will turn this responsibility over to them and will give our attention to prayer and the ministry of the word." What's happening here is you have it's post Pentecost. The disciples or the apostles now are kind of in charge of the church, but there's like 5,000 people. There's like 7,000 people now in the church. It's a lot, and a big issue breaks out. Like racism is an issue in the church now because the Greeks and the Jews aren't getting along, and it's causing widows to starve. Right? That's kind of important. There are old ladies and widows who are starving to death, and the church has racists that are causing problems. That sounds important, right? You'd think that the apostles should step up and do something. They don't. Instead, what they do is they say, "All right, you guys are going to have to deal with this yourself. Find 7 dudes who you trust, who you believe, who you know that God is working through, who have a good reputation, and we're gonna let them deal with it." That sounds like you would get some pushback, right? But this is really important. It's dividing the whole church. People are starving. Don't you care? Right? And the answer is, what they said is, no, it would be wrong for us to go and deal with that because it would take away from the higher level priorities of prayer and the ministry of the word, teaching the word, teaching what about the Bible to everybody, right? Everybody would be, say everybody would be fed and all, but we wouldn't be sharing the gospel. We wouldn't be teaching anybody. We wouldn't be preaching the word. I wouldn't be writing the Bible books, and we wouldn't be talking to God and bringing you before Him in prayer. We have more important things to do. Even though that's all very important, we have more important things to do. There's a very, again, it's sort of similar in that it's a very real way that we can see urgency, things that we want to get involved with, things that are like really critical in our heart, and they really tug on our heartstrings. But sometimes, often, that's someone else's job, right? We talked about this before in a previous class, and that's if you want to be great at content creation, then don't spend all your time working on your weaknesses. Remember that? Right? Spend your time working on your strengths. If you spend all your time working on your weaknesses, you'll achieve adequate. Whereas if you spend your time developing your strengths, you'll develop excellence. In the same way, if you're out there doing everybody else's job and you're inserting yourself into other people's situations because your heart is there, you will do an okay job at it, but you will have forgotten and left behind the actual thing you were supposed to do, right? Trust that you have your own job, you have your own position, you have your own place in the body. You can leave it to someone else. It is okay because you have something else you need to do that God has called you to do. It's really hard to do sometimes because our compassion wants us to go, but oftentimes it's someone else's job. Can you insert, can you be like, you know what? I want to help. That sounds great. And kind of do what the apostles did and be like, okay, you know what? You know who'd be great for that? This person. Go talk to that person. I think they'd be great for this. I can't do it. Right? I can't do it. I'm facing this right now in that there are people in our community that are going through a really hard time financially. And they've texted me and they've texted people and they're like, man, we could really use some help. Now there's 2 or 3 or 4 of this happening at the same time. Right? And so the question is, when it comes down to serving and helping and raising money for these people, is that my job? Should I be doing that? My heart goes out to them. I want, my instinct is like, man, let's do it. Let's do a special stream. I'll start one right now. We'll do 8 hours. We'll raise you some money and let's go. But the truth is, that's not my job. That is not my priority. I'm not a fundraiser. That's not what I'm here for. There are people out there that do that and do that well. So therefore, what's my job? My job is to figure out the problem, show the problem to the people who can help, and say, can we figure this out? Can you guys figure this out so that we can do this properly? Because I can't. I literally can't. And if I tried, I would be ill prepared or do a bad job or wreck the thing I'm supposed to be doing. Right? Does that mean I don't care about those people that are like literally going through a really rough financial time? No, I do care. That's why I'm giving it to somebody I think that will be able to do a much better job. That's why I'm starting the conversation. But that's my position, right? It's hard to do sometimes. What about distractions and hindrances? Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us. And let us run with endurance the particular race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus. This all comes after Hebrews 11, which is a list of, faithful people, the hall of faith that they got, right? What it's meant to be is like, with seeing these examples of all these people who have, had faith and struggled and whatnot, we've seen, and you've read their stories, and they definitely had hindrances. Let us remove as much of the stuff that's holding us back as we possibly can. Look at Jesus and run the task that we have been given, right? There's a lot in this world, and it's not just sin, right? Obviously, sins are going to be an issue, right? Your addictions, your habits, the things that are screwing with your head, that's all going to, like, yes, that's an easy one. But there's other ones, like, for example, people pleasing, right? There are people out there that you don't want to argue with. And so when they come into your life or they say something, you end up being like, oh man, I don't want to fight with them. So I'm just going to do it, or I'm just going to compromise my integrity just so they'll get off my back, or whatever. That also is a hindrance. I need to please my mom. I need to, I get paranoid when I lose people in the stream, or lose people in my numbers, or I get, whatever. So therefore I got to make sure that I do the popular thing that I was doing before, even though I hate it. There's lots of different things that will hinder us from accomplishing what God wants us to do. And it's not always just like sin stuff. Sometimes it's relationship stuff. Sometimes it's personal stuff. Sometimes it's health stuff, right? One of the things that you can't stream if you feel like crap. You can't stream, or you can't create, and you can't be creative if your head is foggy because you're just chock full of cheese. You know what I mean? You can't get on there if you've gone out and you're not washing your hands, and you're being silly with your time, or you drank too much, and now you can't get to do the things you want to do. Like that, your intake, your energy, it comes from your body, right? So therefore it could be a hindrance for your ministry if you're not taking care of your physical body. That's a hindrance. I'm going to pause there again, give opportunity to kind of reflect and talk about this, if you guys want to, before I jump into the last couple slides. Let's talk about the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle. It's really neat. It's one of my favorite things in the whole world, and I use it all the time. If you've ever watched my streams, you will hear me use the word 80% all the time, because it's just so true. What is the Pareto principle? Let's read 1 Corinthians. It said this: do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. There's a lot you can take out of that verse, but let me say it this way. Paul knew who he was, just like an athlete knows what they are there for. A runner, a boxer, a chess master, and a chef all have different workouts, all have different diets, all have different plans, priorities, calendars, in order to allow them to be excellent, right? And that's a good thing. It should be different. The boxer or the runner or whatever, they don't have the same workout routine, because they would develop the wrong muscles, because they wouldn't be as good. And Paul says that, he goes, so when I live, I live purposefully. I live so that I can with an understanding of who I am and what I'm doing, because I know I'm a preacher and I'm supposed to be preaching. And so therefore, this is what I need to do, and this is how I need to prioritize my life. These are the things that I need to watch in my life, my body. This is the disciplines I need to make sure that when I preach, I'm not disqualified, right? He is talking about his own personal mission and how it governs his life. This leads into the Pareto principle, which essentially says that if you focus your energy on 20% of the most important things, you will accomplish 80% of the results, right? This is in regards to the, the verse that we just did. It's basically, if you focus on the most important stuff first, you will get the most done. Whereas if you focus on a bunch of sort of important stuff that's still there, you will get very little done, because it works against you too, right? If you can use 80% of your effort, right, on all the other tasks, priority 3 through 10, and you will only get 20% of the results. Let's give an example. Say you're you're a content creator, and you're like a digital artist, or you're a musician or whatever. What are your top 2 priorities? What are the 2 things you got to do? Let's say, because streamers are here, let's talk about streamers. Streamers easy. What are the top 2 priorities for a streamer, right? Number 1 and number 2 for a Christian content creator. See, it's interesting you said that, because that's exactly what the answer was last night. But may I pitch back and say that the number 1 priority for a Christian content creator is to build a community, and number 2 is to have content. Right? Period. Right? You can't share the gospel. You can't talk to anybody if you don't have content, if you're not creating anything, right? And you can't follow through on the sharing of the gospel, and you can't deepen those relationships if you're not prioritizing building the community, right? There's a lot of people, if you sit there and you talk to them, what are your number 1, number 2 priorities when it comes to whatever you're doing? They will give priority like 5, because they will not have even processed, well, I have to, show up. What's priority 1 for me going to Texas? Right? Is it to meet the new people? Is it hanging out with the streamers? Is it making sure that I have something to say when I talk to the, all the churches? No, it's get to Texas, right? Anything that prevents that means I don't get to do anything else. So if I planned and planned and planned and planned and planned and then missed the plane, none of it would have mattered, right? Those kind of things are your high level priorities. It's I gotta do my content, and I gotta make sure that I'm connecting with the community. If you here's some other examples. 20% of our time produces 80% of the results. And this is absolutely true. If you stream, again, I forgive me if you're a content creator who isn't a streamer, but it's just so easy. If your stream probably takes you 3 hours out of your day, maybe 4, kind of thing. That's your stream. And you put that energy in there. How long do you spend on Discord per day? Like, let's say you're really on, and you spend a good 30 minutes to an hour on Discord every day. 3-hour stream, 1 hour on Discord. Ooh-ah, right? That is 80% of what you do. It'll accomplish everything. And all you've done is been on stream, showed up to do the content, connected with some folks online, and then had some chats in Discord. That's what you've done. That's 20% of your time is producing 80% of your results. But the opposite is true as well. If you do 10 hours of fixing your OBS and making sure you got cool ideas and figuring out what the new games are and researching how to do this and blah, 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 and do all these other things, getting new graphics and getting new icons and making updating all your drivers and getting your hardware together and figuring out your background and cleaning up everything. You can do all that for 10 straight hours and have accomplished 20% of what you were hoping to do and what your ministry or what your mission is all about. That's what the Pareto principle is all about. Making sure you understand the number 1 and number 2 things you got to get done, because it will lead to success. However, if you spend all your time on the other stuff and you don't do number 1 and number 2, it will lead to failure. Another example is relationships. 20% of the people take 80% of your time. If you've been in community for any period of time, for that matter, a family or in church or small group or ran a baseball team or done counseling, anything, any kind of people that you're in, they're going to be the people that a few people there that are going to require way more of your time. They're going to need more skills. They're going to need more of your, energy, need more of your discipline. They're going to need you to pay attention to them so they don't kill themselves. That's just how it works. You'll have a fewer amount of people who are going to suck a lot of your time, and that's okay. That's appropriate. That's just the way it is. Some people just keep going. We used to call them EGRs, extra grace required. Those are people that we just, they're going to take a bit more, and that's okay. But recognizing that, going, okay, according to the Pareto principle, these 20 people are going to take more of my time. I better allot for that, and realize that, because if I spend all my time in the wrong spot, these ones are going to fall apart way quicker, right? That 20%, if I go spend all my time with the 80%, these ones are going to be in real trouble. However, if I spend 100% of my time with those 20, the 80% is going to be in trouble. Recognizing that at least that's normal will help you out. Community. The 20% most active supporters, like your mod, your chatters, your donors, are where you should invest 80% of your post-creation time. That sounds opposite, because a lot of people are going to think, well, no, they're already bought. That's like saying, spend all your time with people who have already purchased your product. Like, no, you want to go get more customers. Like, no, and actually, that's not the truth. If you spend 80% of your time talking to your mods, your main chatters, and your main donors, which is a smaller percentage, maybe not even 20% of your audience, they will become your champions. They will be the ones who are making sure that you can keep going. They're the ones who are going to be solving your problems. They're the ones who are going to be pushing your ministry forward. They're the ones who are going to be protecting you. They're the ones who are going to keep encouraging you. If you spend your time trying to continuously make more new people come, and that's where all your time goes, then you will maybe get what? A few more people coming. You'll get, even if you double your view count, it'll be a few more. Whereas if you spend all your time with mods, chatters, and donors, they go to other communities. They talk about you. The reason that many of you are here in this class right now isn't because I invited you. It's because someone who believes in me, who saw what I was doing, invited you. They thought it was important to tell you about me. Why? Because I invested in them, right? So therefore, my class gets full with people I haven't invited, because I spent my time taking care of my mods, taking care of my chatters, and for me, my board, right? My team, and the donors. They are the ones who are going to help you grow. If you get it the opposite way, you're not going to have nearly as much effect. So take time to thank your mods. Take the time, and I don't mean just on stream. I mean after post creation time. Individual messages. Talk to them about what they think. Maybe read a book together. Maybe talk about a training thing you're going through. Let them in on your heart a little bit more, right? Have a separate section only they can read that you share your more personal prayer requests with, or your more personal needs with. Like, really kind of, and then when they have something that is in their life, connect with them purposefully with more time individually. You wouldn't do that with everybody on your stream, but do that with these ones, because the love that you give to them and the commitment you show to them is going to create a far bigger returns. Okay? Really, really important. Does that make sense? Do you guys have, does that resonate at all? It's a really critical thing. And once you see this, you're going to see it everywhere, right? It's time management. Talk about margin. I've talked to people about this before. Think of a piece of loose leaf paper, right? It's got that little red line, right? You got the header and the footer line. Well, your life priority should be that. Fill up that whole middle with whatever you want. Do your priorities and fill it all up. Leave that margin with nothing in it. Only fill up 80% of your time. Why? Because the other 20% will take care of itself. You need that for emergencies. You need that for if you get sick. You need that for, if something comes up. You need that if one of the things you're doing goes wrong. You need 20% of the time just left unplanned, right? Which is hard for a lot of people, because they're like, well, it's Thursday night and I don't have anything to do. Shouldn't I find something to do? Shouldn't I lock up that time, take a class, make sure that I'm part of a group, add another stream, add another, time for creation, do something like lock in some time there? The answer is no. Because not only do you need rest, but God literally commanded you to rest, but at the same time, that evening will probably fill itself later with some kind of urgency or some kind of plan or some kind of interesting thing or something new. And the only reason you could have said yes to helping that person or creating that new thing or being part of that is because you purposely left that margin. That's the 80-20, right? Capture 80% of your time, leave 20, right? Things like that. Or, if you're trying to do exercise or diet or whatever like that, be 80% good. Do 80% of the work and be okay that you screwed up 20% of the time, or you dropped, you didn't show up for 1 out of every 5 workouts. Be like, man, I did 4, and that's okay, right? You shouldn't work out 7 days a week. You shouldn't be killing yourself like that. You absolutely need to take the break. That's how the human body works. 80-20, you'll see it everywhere. All right. So this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, and where I really do want you to think through this stuff, right? For you personally, who you reach and who your people are and who your audience is and what your life is like and what your family situation is and what your mental health is and all the rest of that stuff. Take it all into account and really think through what are your top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 priorities as a Christian content creator. I think maybe you can argue with 1 and 2 being number 1 being build community, number 2 being make sure you make good content. For me, quality content is number 2. I will put off making content if I can't do it right. I will be late for stream. I will say there is no stream today. I will say this is going to be a little while because I will not show up if this isn't going to work, because I want to give you a good product every single time. So for me, number 2 is quality of the stream. Number 3 is be on stream, which are very close to each other. But for me, it's a little bit different. I don't think that's true for everybody. Some people really don't, they don't need a super high quality stream and super high, awesomeness. They just need to be there because they're just so attractive and they're so winsome and they're so, people just like them so much that all they have to do is show up and people are perfectly fine with that. For me, I'm compensating as much as I possibly can for all of my faults through the power of technology. But so for you, when you think through this stuff, what's number 1, number 2, number 3? Is health part of it? I need to not be in my room for this many hours. Is getting on Discord every single day part of it? Is fixing your technology because you spend, I was on stream with someone the other day, they spent probably a fifth of their stream, maybe even a third of their stream fixing their stream and saying things like, I don't know what's happening, I don't know what's happening, I never thought about this before, and can you just wait for me, right? Is it fixing what you're doing? Is it your priority to be, to practice the game, make sure you're decent at it, even when you're not on stream? Is your priority to make sure that you have something to talk about? So you're watching the news, or you're reading the book, or you're making sure that you are cognizant and informed about stuff. Like, that's important that I actually go and read the blog or whatever it is because I have something that I need to say. Is it, that you need to be cognizant of pop culture, right? Your stream is super into whatever. And so therefore, you know what? I need to make the time to go watch the ding dang show that I really don't care that much about but they're into it. So that's important to them. So that's important to me now. But if you get it wrong, and suddenly you're sitting there watching a show you don't need to watch because 4 people out of your 100 are interested, then all of a sudden you're wasting time, right? I want to give you guys some chance to feedback. So I'll ask the question, when you think through your top priorities, number 1, number 2, number 3, what would you say they are? Or do you have any other interesting ones at 5 and 6 that you would say, that have to be there, but they're not super urgent? Well, the answer is community. In a very real sense, the answer is bouncing it off of trusted sources. You look into the Word, you look into kind of like your own heart, like just what do I know about God and what has God been pointing me in the right direction. You talk to people who are who love you and love Jesus and kind of know what you're doing, right? And then you talk to people who are just wiser than you that are further along, and you just talk, you kind of like, hey, I feel like there's something going on out there, and I want to be involved in it. I think I'm not sure. It sounds like it's something I could do. What do you think? Right? You pray about it. You think about it. What does the Bible say about it? Bounce it off a friend, some friends that know you and love you, and then bounce it off some people who are further along than you. And you'll hear either, yeah, you know what? I really see that in you. That's exactly what you should be doing. That's certainly, it's something I've been thinking about too, about you, is that I think you'd be good at that. Or they're going to be like, no, dude, like here's information you didn't know, right? About how that's actually working out. Or no, I don't think you'd be good at that. And what you're doing, you've got too much on your plate right now. Don't do that. Right? They will be the one to help you. People in accountability, being willing to be open with that, critically important. So often we feel the world's against us and everything's against us, and so we end up trying to do everything ourselves. Just me and God, let's go. And that is not how any of this works. If you want to be an effective content creator, you need a community. You need people that know you and love you. You need people that are going to hold you accountable. People that are going to get in your face. People that are going to support you when you feel really bad. That's who you need, those people in your life. Or you're going to end up with misplaced priorities, burning yourself out, going the wrong direction, getting discouraged. There's going to be all kinds of things because you're alone. You can't do this alone. You oughtn't, you mustn't do this alone. Well, I would say if that's your how you're thinking, then I would say that the priority needs to be, I will make one high quality stream and it will be at this time, regardless of how I feel. Because we know how important it is to be consistent to that time, right? We can make, Friday stream optional. We can say, yeah, if we show up, we're great. But otherwise, that one that is on Wednesday from 7 till 10, that I need to be there, that's when I'm going to show up, because that's going to be the one I work on. In fact, if I feel crappy on Friday, I'll sit here in my pajamas with no camera on and try to make the next Wednesday stream better, right? That I can handle. Instead of being like, I don't feel like it today, it shows up, and then I don't feel like it that day, and it doesn't show up, and then, kind of bouncing back and forth, because you're going to confuse your audience, right? But if you're like, I will do one good stream this week, and it's going to be at this time, and I'm going to forgive myself and be flexible with the rest of my time and be okay with the fact that I can push that stuff off. I think that's more effective, right? But you're right. If you feel really, really crappy, and I've done that too. Actually, I did a no cam stream. I've done it twice. I felt so crappy I didn't even want to turn on the camera. But it's my job, so I gotta be on stream. So I'm like, you know what, guys? I'm not turning on the camera today. I can't look you in the eyes. I just can't. I just feel so terrible. Let's play Minecraft. That's all we're gonna do today. And you can't do that all the time. You know what I mean? Because that's not the greatest stream ever. But I tell you what, it actually does help, because it shows the community that you go through stuff too, right? You go through stuff too. There's a lot of people in my life in the last 15 years, 20 years, that they've thanked me for being, and they use the word all the time, real, right? You're the most real pastor I know. You're the most real whatever I know. With the implication is, they know a lot of people that are either hypocrites or fake or pretending, or they won't share anything. But because I'm relatively transparent with the stuff I'm going through, they're like, I have permission to feel crappy too, and I have someone I can be like, hey, I feel crappy, and they're gonna go, yeah, me too, yay, like at least we're together in this. It means so much to people, that kind of transparency.